Hello, and welcome back to Growing Young. I am Al Judge. Before we dive into today's topic, I want to be clear. I am an engineer, not a doctor. The information in this video is for educational purposes, reflecting my own research and my own metabolic journey. Always consult with your healthcare provider before changing your diet or stopping any medications. This video is the first in my series, Medical Misinformation. In this series, we will be looking at the most common medical false beliefs and the science that proves them wrong. It is unfortunate that much of this misinformation is advocated by healthcare professionals. Later in the series, we will dive into the reasons for such widespread misinformation. But for now, I want to focus on the single most dangerous example. Today, we are going to explore cholesterol. Since 1987, when the first statin drugs were introduced, the medical community has treated cholesterol as an enemy, when in fact, it is actually one of the most vital molecules in the human body. Every single cell membrane you have is made of cholesterol. Your brain is predominantly made of cholesterol. It is the foundational building block for your hormones, including testosterone, estrogen, and vitamin D. For the last 50 years, we have been told a very simple, very frightening story. We have been told, eating animal fat raises our cholesterol. High cholesterol clogs our arteries. This inevitably leads to heart disease. The only way to save ourselves is to eat a low-fat diet and take statin drugs for the rest of our lives. But what if that entire narrative is fundamentally flawed? During my 37 years as a mechanical engineer at Black & Decker, my job was to analyze complex systems, figure out exactly how they functioned, and isolate the true root cause of any failure. The process is called failure analysis and is commonly done on anything that fails for any reason. The engineers doing the analysis have to create a credible step-by-step explanation for how the failure occurred and how similar failures can be eliminated in the future. When we apply that exact same engineering mindset to the human cardiovascular system, the mainstream medical narrative surrounding cholesterol completely falls apart. To help us understand cholesterol better, I have enlisted the help of some of my medical advisory committee, a group of independent doctors, including Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Paul Mason, Dr. Anthony Chaffee, Dr. William Davis, and Dr. Sten Ekberg. These are physicians who look at the raw metabolic data rather than reciting outdated textbook theories. Links to some of their videos on the topic are included in the description. You will soon learn that a growing number of independent doctors argue that your basic LDL number is not the villain we have been led to believe. In fact, Dr. William Davis, an American cardiologist and best-selling author, is a strong advocate for eliminating total cholesterol and basic LDL cholesterol from the standard lipids panel. In his view, without looking at the specific size and health of the particles, these basic measurements are practically worthless for predicting true cardiovascular risk. Let's start with the absolute basics. What actually is cholesterol? Most people think of it as a toxic sludge that builds up in your veins, but cholesterol is essential to human life. We have about 35 trillion cells in our bodies, and every one of them is covered in a cholesterol membrane. These cells are being replaced at a phenomenal rate, several million per second. This constant need keeps our liver busy producing cholesterol. Without cholesterol, your body simply ceases to function. Because it is so critical, your body does not rely on your diet to get it. Your liver manufactures about 80% of the cholesterol in your blood. When you eat more cholesterol, like the beef, eggs, butter, and bacon on a proper carnivore diet, your liver simply produces less. When you eat less of it, your liver produces more. The system regulates itself perfectly. So, where did the fear come from? It comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of lipoproteins. When you get a blood test, your doctor looks at two main numbers, HDL, which they call good cholesterol, and LDL, which they call bad cholesterol. But HDL and LDL are not actually cholesterol at all. They are lipoproteins. Think of your bloodstream as a river. Cholesterol is fat soluble, which means it cannot dissolve in water or blood. It needs a boat to carry it through the bloodstream to the cells that need it. HDL and LDL are the boats. Saying LDL is bad is like saying a cargo ship is evil simply because of the cargo it is carrying. LDL's job is to deliver vital nutrients and energy to your cells. So why do doctors panic when your LDL is high? This is where Dr. Paul Mason and Dr. Anthony Chaffee's research becomes incredibly important. They point out that standard blood tests only measure the total volume of LDL in your blood, but not all LDL boats are the same size. There are two types of LDL particles. Type A particles are large, fluffy, and buoyant. They bounce harmlessly off the walls of your blood vessels, perfectly delivering their cargo. Type B particles, on the other hand, are small, dense, and oxidized. Because they are so small, they can easily slip into the microscopic cracks and lesions in your arterial walls. Once they get stuck there, your immune system attacks them, causing inflammation, plaque buildup, and eventually blockages. Standard blood tests do not differentiate between the large, safe type A particles and the small, dangerous type B particles. They just lump them all together. If you are eating a clean, low-carbohydrate diet, your LDL might be high, but it is almost entirely composed of those large, fluffy, harmless type A particles. This brings us to the ultimate question. If meat and fat don't cause small, dense LDL, what does? The answer is insulin resistance and inflammation. When you consume processed carbohydrates, refined sugars, and industrial seed oils, it creates a massive spike in your blood sugar and a corresponding surge of insulin. Over time, as Dr. Jason Fung and Dr. Sten Ekberg continually explain, this leads to insulin resistance. High blood sugar is highly toxic to the vascular system. It acts like sandpaper, scraping and damaging the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels. When your arteries are damaged by sugar and inflammation, the body sends LDL cholesterol to the site to act as a patch to repair the damage. Blaming cholesterol for heart disease is like blaming the firefighters for the fire just because they are always spotted at the scene of the blaze. The cholesterol is there to fix the damage caused by the sugar and the seed oils. Furthermore, high blood sugar actually undergoes a process called glycation, which literally shrinks your large LDL particles, turning them into the small, dangerous, oxidized type B particles. It is the carbohydrates that make the cholesterol dangerous, not the animal fat. At 79 years old, after switching to a strict carnivore diet of beef, bacon, eggs, butter, and cottage cheese, my metabolic markers are better than they were decades ago. But I have spent more time arguing with my primary care physicians about cholesterol than any other topic. Conventional doctors follow the standard of care guidelines, which heavily prescribe statin drugs for levels of cholesterol that many modern lipidologists now consider perfectly safe for metabolically healthy people. Statin drugs reduce LDL by interfering with the liver's natural process of producing your much-needed cholesterol. But here is where the failure analysis comes in. If the small, dense, oxidized type B particles caused by excessive glucose are the primary danger, then a drug that simply lowers all cholesterol, including the large, fluffy LDL that does no harm, is a very blunt instrument. While cardiologists argue statins are necessary for certain specific conditions, prescribing them universally to lower a number on a chart, while completely ignoring the root cause of the arterial damage, insulin resistance and inflammation, is a flawed approach. Masking a symptom while ignoring the root cause is terrible engineering, and a growing number of doctors are realizing it is less than ideal medicine. So, what should you actually look for on your blood test? According to Dr. Sean Baker and Dr. Ken Berry, The most accurate predictor of cardiovascular risk is not your LDL number. It is your triglyceride to HDL ratio. Triglycerides are the fats circulating in your blood, heavily driven by carbohydrate and alcohol consumption. HDL is your high-density lipoprotein. You want your triglycerides to be low and your HDL to be high. If you divide your triglycerides by your HDL, you want that number to be under 2.0, and ideally closer to 1.0. When you eliminate processed carbs and sugar and focus on a proper human diet of ruminant meat and animal fats, your triglycerides plummet and your HDL rises. Your body enters a state of deep metabolic healing. Dr. William Davis says that a triglyceride level below 60 is a strong health indicator. After 3 years on a carnivore diet, my level is 44, which gives me a triglyceride to HDL ratio of slightly less than 1.0. We have been conditioned to fear the very foods that our ancestors thrived on for millennia. Dr. Jason Fung has described mainstream medicine as a logic-free zone where all the evidence is ignored. He was one of the first doctors to point out that the food pyramid introduced in the 1970s is a direct path to all the chronic diseases that plague our society. It is time to look at the mechanics of our own bodies, look past the outdated dietary guidelines, and take control of our metabolic health. Thank you for watching Growing Young. If you found this information valuable, please consider subscribing to the channel and sharing this video with someone who might be struggling with conventional diet advice. Until next time, keep questioning the narrative and keep focusing on your health.